Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our very first episode with Optimize CEC podcast. Uh, we're joined with a good friend of mine, Mr. Matt Bruno, who is CRO of Lively, their Chief Revenue Officer. And one of the things that we're going to dive right into, we only have about 30 minutes today, is the big topic that everyone is talking about right now, which is AI. Everywhere we look, everywhere that businesses talk about is AI. So that is our subject for today that we're going to talk with Matt about, and hopefully answer some of your questions that you guys have. Just so everyone is aware, part of what we're going to do is if you have questions, you can submit them. If we have time, we'll get to them, but more than likely, we will post all the questions and answers after the podcast, and we will post them on all of the socials that we have, including YouTube, LinkedIn, and the such. So again, we'll dive right into it. Thank you again for joining us, Matt. Happy to have you with us.
Love being here. It's time for the Matts to come together, and I'm happy to be the first podcast guest of yours.
Yeah, awesome. And again, Lively is a very experienced AI company, which we'll get more into that later. But for now, we'll jump right in on some of the questions that we have. And the first one that we wanted to ask you is, from your perspective, why is the conversation around AI and customer experience so important right now?
Yeah, I think it's especially important right now because I think the wait and see is over. It's every year. We've been doing this for a long time. I always joke we've been doing AI before it's cool. We've been doing it for around 8 years. So believe it or not, that's before ChatGPT was a thing. When I started, I had to convince you why you wanted AI. I would say if I met 10 people, one person would be like, I got it. This is great. Let's go. 4 would be, no one on my org is asking for this, so I'm out. And then we had, the other 5 were like a maybe, and we'd pilot and we'd find use cases. It was a big effort. Then ChatGPT came. Now AI is all the buzz. I think the last 2 years was people waiting and seeing. And now people are actually executing. So it's so important now because if you launch it and launch it right, you're going to get amazing results. And if you don't launch it right, you're going to have a huge gap now that your competitors will beat you on.
So if someone if they don't have an AI strategy in their business, do you think that they're falling behind the times?
Yeah, like it's not even close. And I'm sure we'll get into this later, but the other thing I would say is you don't need a full AI strategy to get going. So I would say don't spend 8 months creating an AI strategy. Like, you need to be doing something in AI now. So that's how I'd answer it is, if you're not doing something in AI now, you're behind. If you're doing it wrong, like, you're still a little bit behind, but not quite all the way behind. But the worst thing you'd be doing is doing nothing.
Awesome. All that we keep hearing right now is the different versions of AI. And what I mean is we started with conversational AI, then it turned into generative AI, and now everyone's talking about agentic AI. So to you, what would you explain in simple business terms what agentic AI is?
Yeah, love it. So generative AI, which was the buzzword like 2 years ago, it's something that produces, right? So it'd be drafting a reply to an email. Agentic AI, think of that as something that could decide and act. So rather than just drafting a reply, it might pull the order, check the policy, decide what to do, issue the credit, update the record. And so that's why it's becoming so important, is it could actually think and execute.
Awesome. And agentic AI, so comparing it to the previous ones, it's more advanced in your opinion. It would be able to have decision-making abilities based on policies, procedures. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. It's the difference between mapping everything out up front to saying, here's, the actions you could do. Here's the request coming in. Based off the actions you could do, what actions do you think you should do?
Awesome. Why do you think AI has become such a major focus for contact centers, for business experience leaders, for their customer experience leaders, especially with Lively? What Lively does day in, day out, really focusing on the customer experience. Why is it such a big topic right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the holy grail has always been to provide customers with the best possible resolutions as quickly as possible, right? This journey towards self-service or better support of the agents isn't anything new. But what makes AI so unique, and especially agentic AI, is it's actually changing the way the technology is, in that you don't need to train people on the technology. This is designed to work the way your people work, right? Like, when you hire a new staff, you say, hey, here's the skills you could do. You could look up an order. Here's how you do it. And here's like the policies you need to worry about. And then they use their judgment to figure out what to do. And so this is the first time that technology is mirroring the way we train people. And so it makes it a lot easier to deploy. And I think that's been why it's such a hot topic.
Awesome. So when we look at customer service operations today, where do you see AI creating the biggest immediate impact for businesses?
I would say 3 areas. I think off the bat, productivity tends to be the biggest, right? Handle time is going to be reduced. If you could automate, the clicking and the researching, if you could automate a bunch of contacts that would never need to make it to a human anymore, that's going to be the biggest impact that you're going to see immediately. I think the next big one is quality, right? Every conversation can now be scored and monitored. That could turn into real-time personalized feedback for agents so they can do the right things. And then lastly, I would just say insights. One of the biggest challenges in the contact center today is it's hard to know, why are people calling, right? What is driving the calls? Like, you might say, hey, I have an influx of calls and, it's all about a return, but why? Like, what's driving those return calls? And AI helps close those gaps. So those would be the big 3, I would say, kind of in order. But the truth is, it really all depends on what metric you want to move. You figure out the metric that matters most. AI can solve it. So I don't want you to think you have to go in this order. Like, what you really need to do is just say, what do I want to move? And then start from there.
Great. On that subject, I saw a quote the other day that says, if you're exploring AI for your business, start by asking not what jobs AI can replace, but what customer experiences can it improve? And that's where real transformation begins. So with that in mind, how should leaders approach the conversation without losing sight of the customer experience?
Yeah, that's 100% like everyone says there's no silver bullet. I think that is the silver bullet. It's start with the customer experience, exactly what you said, right? I think if you're trying to just move a metric like efficiency and that's all you focus on, then you're going to end up with a strategy of trying to deflect as many calls as possible, trying to remove as much work as possible, and your customer experience is going to dip. But at the end of the day, like, I actually don't believe there's necessarily a tension between efficiency and customer experience. I think the business and the customer want the same thing, which is something resolved as effectively as possible, as quickly as possible. So start with the customer journey. What would you want as a customer to get the right resolution? And the automation, the metrics, all of that will follow. And that way you guarantee you're designing for the right experience.
So one thing that I've seen on a lot of social media around AI, and kind of on the same subject, a lot of companies are looking to lower cost, and what I think that happens is they build their agentic AI incorrectly, and it actually ends up costing them quite a bit more than what they expected. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, exactly what we said, right? You're not looking at the customer experience. So some of those traps are, you do a voice AI, and if you want to optimize for cost savings, right, then I'm never going to send you to a human, right? I'm going to do everything I can to stop you from going to a human. But those customers are still going to make it to a human, right? And so they're going to go to a human and they're going to be upset and they're going to need to be de-escalated. And so exactly, right? It's going to create more cost, or you're going to lose them as a customer, or they're not going to get that question that they wanted answered, and they're going to, have a bad experience. They're going to tell their friends. So again, I think if you start with the right experience, you're still going to save a bunch of money, because customers don't want to spend a lot of time on hold and don't want to, have an agent spend all this time looking things up, but you're still going to end up with the right experience.
Great. What area do you think companies are underestimating what AI can do?
Yeah. I think this is a big one for me, and it's I think the biggest trap, and it's kind of what I talked about earlier. It's that it could actually take action now today. I think a lot of people who I find are behind, it's well intentioned actually. It's not like they're afraid of AI. It's they want to have like that perfect AI strategy. So they're going to spend 8 months looking at every use case, and they're going to maybe think through every item in their tech stack. And they're going to do this massive project to get ready for AI. And then 8 months later, the tech is going to be a little bit different and they're not going to be ready. And they're right. It's this like never ending cycle. So I think where people are underestimating what AI could do is it could actually do action today with the systems you have. I think that's one of the things Lively has been pioneering. It's this type of technology called computer use agents. But the concept is, can AI just operate your tech stack like a human can? And AI is getting really good at that. And so if AI can control the computer like a human, you don't need to do a whole new tech stack project, right? And if you don't need to do a whole new tech stack and integration project, then you can launch quickly. And if you can launch quickly, you don't necessarily need to do an 8-month project to make sure you're launching right. Pick a workflow, see how it goes, and learn. So that's the biggest thing I can say customers are underestimating. It's you're ready, and they're not realizing that.
I think another thing that I've seen and heard is, and I'd love your opinion on this. Getting started now, will AI continue to get better also with our, let's say our tech stack is getting better, it's changing and all of that. You recommend for people to start AI now because it's only going to grow and get better with your tech stack?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. One, it's only going to grow and get better. But two, it's already ready to integrate with your tech stack. And so you're just ready. The technology is there. There's a lot you could do with very little integration now.
Great. A lot of conversations, a lot of people are afraid, especially let's say in the contact center world or customer experience world, that AI is going to replace them. So do you think that that's the right way to look at it?
I don't. I think it's funny. It's like this comes up every 5 to 7 years in the contact center where everyone's predicting all the agents are going to go away. This goes back to when chatbots first came out. It goes back to when there's self-service portals. Like this isn't new, right? You could still I can now go to my bank and look at my balance, and I can go to my retailer and look at my order status, and I could change my password. I could do all of these in portals. So this isn't new. I think AI is making it easier to do some of this stuff. So there might be new self-service things that weren't previously accessible. But the fact of the matter remains, I think there's always going to be a need to talk to a human for some interactions. And so I don't think humans are going away. I think their job is going to change drastically. It's going to become a much bigger job that's going to be focused less on transactional and more on relationship building and sales and insight gathering. But I don't think it's going to go away.
So on that subject specifically, so you had mentioned earlier that if someone wants to get to a human, they're going to get to a human. So on the relationship building, what is a defined, let's say, a critical role that a human plays with AI in a company, in a business, in the customer experience business? Where do humans? What is going to stay with humans? Do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be where the need itself isn't the transaction. So, for example, right, like if I ordered some item for a gift and it didn't come in time, like I'm not asking for a policy read. I want you to take accountability and make me feel better, right? That's something that you'd want a human to do. So I think things where it's not just a transaction. So that's a great one. Or where there's like a big consequence and I'm not sure the answer and I want you to advise me and take accountability for it. So I think that's where I'm thinking things around accountability, where you need human judgment. That's where I think there'll still always be a role.
And thinking on for the human side, uh, how is the human's job going to change now that AI is available to them? A lot of what we talk about at Optimize is our agents are AI enhanced. What does that mean? How is the human's job changing?
Yeah. So I think their job is going to go less from looking things up and orchestrating the system and more to being that judgment of what's the right resolution here and being that truthfully empathetic human being that could help you out and build that genuine connection. And so how is AI helping me do that? Before the call, the AI could be researching to let me know everything about the situation, about who's calling in, what is their past history. During the call, it could be maybe helping suggest the right resolution paths or researching some of those resolution paths to let me know quicker what is the right option, so that I'm not spending all this time researching, I'm spending all this time discussing. And then after the call, it could be coaching me on, what could I have done better, so that the next call is even better than the previous.
And so with everything that you mentioned, are these things that all, let's say Lively as an example, does? Because, one of the things, having worked with Lively and tools like this in the past, to your point, uh, I don't have to worry about taking notes as much. Lively, a tool like Lively does that for me, and it could even input it in the system. So again, I can focus on what is the client saying. Is that where you're leading to?
Exactly. I think you basically, to do it right, you need the full ecosystem covered. And so the way I think of it is there's kind of 5 stages that you need to do well. You need to do before the call, right? How are you using AI to triage the question coming in and either answer it fully or send to an agent? Then you have the handoff, where when I'm sending to an agent, what research can I do before it even gets to that agent? The call itself, right? That's where agent assist comes in and other automations to help the agent do their job better. After the call, things like case notes, right, are great to free up time. Also to remove stress from the call itself, because a lot of agents are worried that, oh, I got to document this all, and it just creates some issues there. So after the call, right, there's a bunch of automations you could do. And then I think the biggest one people forget about is there still the ongoing interaction. And I think that's like going to be the next wave that the smartest brands are going to do, which is AI makes it so much easier to create new contacts. And I think for a long time, we've been thinking, how do we remove contact points? But I think in the world where you want to build better relationships, you want to increase. So could AI help remind me or even send a follow-up like, hey, I rush shipped the new item. Did it get there in time? Or even better, I saw that the item got there. Just want to make sure you're satisfied. Hope all is well. Those could be completely automated and create an incredible relationship. So that's kind of how I would think about it. The 5 buckets of the user journey, from before the call to way after the call.
Awesome. So on that, the flip side of that, what customer interactions do you think should not ever be fully automated?
Yeah, so this might be a cheeky answer, but I think it's actually a pretty obvious one when you think about it, which is the ones your customer tells you not to. I think it's as simple as that. Like, you're going to know the ones that they don't want automated because they're going to be trying to not automate it, right? And that goes to what we talked about, where that's where brands get wrong, right? If you're hearing customers trying to get out or trying to escalate or asking, for a human for these situations, I say listen to them, because again, we just talked about the 5 areas where AI could help. Only one of them is replacing the human by handling the call fully. You still have 4 other areas where AI could add a ton of value. So let it, right? Let it, and let the customers have those interactions that they really want.
And that leads into my next question. So AI versus humans, and you've talked a lot about, using AI to enhance the customer experience, the conversation, all of that. What does the ideal hybrid customer experience model look like to you?
Yeah, I think it's basically AI, handles the work, people handle the relationship. So like we said, it does the triaging, it does the research, it does all of the activities where the agent is typing and doing things, and the human's really focusing on that conversation. And I think the one area where this all gets accelerated is you want to have a learning layer underneath, where the AI is QAing and profiling and gathering insights to make everything better.
Great. So if a company today, any of our listeners are starting their AI journey, just they're in the beginning, where should they begin? And do you have any advice on watch out for certain mistakes they should avoid?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say eventually you need all five. So I think the watch out would be thinking that you could just do one area of AI. So all five again, right, is like the voice AI up front, the handoff, the agent assist, the post call, and then that ongoing support. You're gonna need all of that, right? Because again, that's the journey of the customer, and to do it right, you have to align to the customer. But where on the five do you start? It kind of depends a little bit on your goal, and I kind of see it bubbling up into one of three areas. One is an agent-led approach, which is you want to, really focus on that agent assistance. You want to focus on that QA, that guidance. You want to make your agents better. And that's a good way in, right? So you start by focusing, on the during and the post call. And then as you're guiding and automating things from agents, you could slowly move that earlier and make more of that self-serve. So that's one great place to start. The other is the polar opposite, where you want to start with just taking those easy transactions that nobody wants to go to a human. And that's the key thing. Nobody, you and the customer, don't want to talk to a human about it, and start automating those. I will say be careful, though. If you start there, what you're going to find is rapidly your call mix for your agents are going to change, right? And they're going to become more complex. So like agent assist needs to be a fast follow for that. Otherwise, you're going to end up with frustrated and confused agents, who are so used to spending 80% of this time on these easy tasks, and suddenly those are gone. And then the last one, and I think it's like the safest, but my least favorite, to be honest, is the insight-led approach, where you want to just gather insights about what's happening. It's safe because like you can roll it out, you don't need to impact the experience, and it will give you good guidance. But it's my least favorite because I think before you do this whole project, I think you still probably know today, if you're being honest, where your agents could use more assistance or what transactions should be automated. And I think in doing that, you're going to get the insights anyways. So I would still prefer to start with one of those two, and then the insights kind of accelerates. But like I said, I'm happy for you to start. The biggest mistake is just not starting or only doing, a subset and then thinking you're done.
And you touched on a few of the next question that I have. Why is it important for companies to involve their frontline teams when they're first introducing AI? Why is that important to do?
So I think it's critical, and there's actually two different reasons, and sometimes people conflate them. So I think you should separate it. I think the first is before you execute, you want to involve them because, like you alluded to, they're an excellent source of ideas, right? I think this is like the most common thing I hear in Agent Assist. I go to a lot of conferences, and I'll meet a lot of people, and the most common story here is I spent 7 months to get my knowledge base in order to launch an Agent Assist tool that nobody uses. And one of the reasons why that is one, agents don't need their knowledge base showed to them in their face all the time throughout the call. Nobody wants that. Like, I think I'd be annoyed if I'm talking to you and something was telling Matt, say this, say this, say this, say this, say this, right? This conversation would not go well. But I think, but like if you sat down and talked to your ops leaders, you're going to know where help is needed, right? There's probably, they can say, oh man, our agents struggle on these 5 things. And that's something you could address now. So I think that's one, is like talk to your team. They know what needs to be automated, what needs to be assisted. But then I think the big and the overlooked one, and that's why I see people conflate it, is they think, I talked to my team, I'm out of the woods. Once you launch, you're just getting started. Like the biggest thing is adoption, right? Like we've all rolled out a tool that no one uses, even though the tool is phenomenal, right? And so the key to adoption is going to be the frontline staff. And so if, a guidance isn't quite right or an automation isn't quite right, the more you could give the control to the frontline team to come in and iterate and improve, the better it's going to be. If they need to create a ticket and wait for some other person to do it, you're going to find they're just rapidly going to abandon it. It's going to be like, oh, this tool seemed good, but it doesn't quite work. I don't really have the time to coordinate to get it fixed, and they're going to abandon it. So they're going to be key to make sure, ongoing success.
And I think, if they can adopt it and use it, and we've seen this across the board in many, many companies. If it's a tool that is not helping them do their job, like you said, they're going to abandon it. It's not making my job any better. So what skills do you think that customer service professionals will need to succeed in the AI-enabled world?
Yeah, and this is another one too I would put into two different buckets. So I think the agents themselves, that's going to change. They're going to need more judgment and relationship building skills. Because I think, you're just going to have those hard, complex contacts. And so those people skills are really going to matter. Where right now, I think, we're kind of looking for people who are down to just look something up and do the same thing over and over again quickly. And they're really good at that. Instead, you're going to need someone that's a really good, relationship builder, really like a people person, which funny enough is what I think contact center agents always wanted, right? Like, I feel like that was always the joke of the role. Is like, you're like, I love talking to people. I'm going to do this job. And then you realize 90% of your job is fighting technology. 10% of your job is talking to people. And so finally it's going to change, right? So that's the agents. But then I think, again, the front line also has those operators. And I think the killer operators of the future are going to have a more of a design skill set, meaning like they're going to know that customer journey in their head. And it's always going to be in their head. And they're always going to be like, ooh, if we did this, it could optimize that. And, if we launch this thing and we do this, and ooh, why are we even doing this touch point? We should do that touch point. And so I think the more you could be like a system thinker and a visionary of what you want that flow to look like, the better. I think today you're more like metric motivated, and it's like, how do I move a metric? I think tomorrow it's going to be more, how do I build a system?
Awesome. So we're coming close to the end of our time, but I wanted you to complete a sentence for me. The future of customer experience is not replacing people. It is blank.
Ooh, this is a good one. I think it's AI doing the work so that people could do the job, like kind of what we just said, right? Like we all wanted this experience, right? We all wanted a job where I hear your problem and solve it and I'm your hero. And we could get there. We could actually do that, right? So all the work that, is not necessarily needed could go to the AI, and the people could still be there to be the heroes.
Great. Before you go, why don't you, for all of our listeners, our viewers, why don't you tell them a little bit about Lively overall? Again, we touched on a few things that Lively does, but why don't you tell them about the whole company?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lively is an end-to-end AI and automation platform. What makes us unique is we actually spun out of a large contact center. So everything we do is with an operational lens. And we have three products that together build the whole ecosystem. So we have our upfront triage layer that we call SID Intercept. It's able to pick up a phone call or an email or a chat and triage it. So either answer the question or hand it to an automation layer that could do the action, or hand it to a human. Then the next product we have is SID Solo, which is our automation layer. That's our computer use agent technology. If you have APIs, we could use it. If not, we could literally automate anything by just doing it the way a human does. So if you wanted us to like look up an order and there's no API, we just look up an order like a human would log in, would type in the thing, we'd look it up. That's where the new, I think, breakthrough in technology is coming, because that's what unlocks the better handoffs, the better after call work, the better during the call automation. And then we have a full agent assist suite called SID Duo. What makes that unique is it's all focused about adoption, right? So some of those principles I talked about, we're not showing you your knowledge base throughout a call so that you're tuning it out. We're actually combining QA and agent assist into one platform. So, the things that I would guide you on, Matt, might be different on the things that I would get guided on, because I might, my QA scorecard might say, I'm forgetting to do these things and you're forgetting to do something else. And that's how you get a much more tailored guidance. And it all feeds into that insights and layer that I talked about to elevate it all.
Great. Thank you again, Matt. And again, as a customer of Lively, very happy with the product. And really, thank you for sharing your perspective, since you're in the agentic AI field. Really understanding that it's not about replacing humans as much as improving the overall experience and what the future is going to hold for businesses and customers, customer experience and contact centers and the like. So again, thank you so much for your time today, Matt.
My pleasure. It flew by. I had a blast, and hopefully we could do this again soon.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone, again for attending. And until next time, talk to you then.